So what are the suggestions can you offer parents who've got a child who's reluctant to attend rather than necessarily struggling to separate?
To go to school?
Yeah. Don't want to go anymore. It's no fun. Because sometimes it is an anxiety, isn't it? Sometimes that can be an anxiety issue rather than being stubborn.
Huge. Yeah, huge. In fact, a big portion of the families I work with online and that come in my practice have a lot of school refusal. I mean, it's the number one symptom of anxiety is, I just can't do this. I'm going to stay home. And you kind of want to just cave because you're like, gosh, I don't want to drag them out of the car and force them to go to school. It just seems cruel.
Yes.
But unfortunately, if it's anxiety-based, it's a vicious circle and it snowballs, and then they don't want to go anywhere. They don't want to leave the house. Oh. And so it doesn't really solve the problem. It tends to exacerbate it, unfortunately. But I think the key is figuring out for that child why they don't want to go to school. Yeah. Because I think a lot of times we just deal with the symptom instead of the actual core. Yeah. And so the core is different for each kid. So I always say to parents, and this seems really simplistic, but I always say, ask them, what's the worst thing about it? And you'll always get a really meaty answer. What's the worst thing about school? That'll be different for each kid. A lot of times it might be, I don't want to be away from you. I don't know where you are. What if you don't pick me up? What if you die? Or I'm not safe without you. Or those are like the two most popular ones. Yeah. And then you deal with that worry. Because I think a lot of times we talk about just putting out fires. Yes. We'll consequence them if they don't want to go, or we'll reward them if they go, or we'll talk to the school and we'll get them on board. But hello, why don't they want to go? Yeah. And we have to get to that. And if it's an anxiety issue, it's going to be an anxiety-based, distorted thought that we have to tackle.
Yeah. And how do you tackle that distorted thought, Natasha?
Well, that's the tricky part. Yeah. But that's the key, because if you can bring calm to that thought, then everything else can come into place. Then you can throw all those things, rewards, and get the school involved, and all that will be really effective. If they're afraid that their mom won't be there, then it kind of goes back to personifying it. So if we're talking about a dictator, then I would say to a child, like a school-age child, your dictator doesn't want you to go to school. So when you listen to your dictator and you avoid, it grows bigger. Yeah. And when it grows bigger, it's going to bother you about a lot of things, and it's going to be with you for the rest of your life. When you ignore it and you don't avoid and you face it, it's going to get smaller, weaker, and it's going to be easier to beat. So your dictator doesn't want you to go to school. Your dictator is going to make your stomach hurt. Your dictator is going to make you really queasy and nervous. You have to work through it. So some of it's just getting them to understand anxiety. Yeah. But then we talk about how the dictator lies. It's going to tell you that your mom's not going to come back. Does that make sense? Yeah. Does your mom always come back? So then you do some cognitive restructuring so they can kind of see.